government's own figures say it will cost business £5 billion a year. It clearly fails the Prime Minister's growth test. Will he drop it? But what is the government doing for growth now? It's destroying it. Let's look at the employment bill.
Mr. Speaker, I think the proposition they left a golden inheritance was tested on the 4th of July, which is why they're standing there.
Conservative policies that take years to deliver results. An employment bill costing businesses billions. Accusations of misleading the commons. These are the ingredients of today's political powder keg. But what's the real story behind the headlines? Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video.
This morning, the Chancellor embraced a series of Conservative policies. Although many are welcomed, they will take years to deliver. Yesterday, the Prime Minister set his growth test. He said, if a policy is good for growth, the answer is yes. If it's not, the answer is no. Mr. Speaker, when Conservatives left office, we had the fastest economic growth in the G7.
From the perspective of struggling small business owners to the grand vision of economic reformers, we're piecing together the puzzle of UK's economic future. Join us as we separate fact from fiction and uncover the true impact of the policies shaping Britain's destiny. The employment bill. It's the talk of the town, but for all the wrong reasons. While the government touts it as a beacon of hope for workers' rights, small business owners are quaking in their boot.
Wages up, inflation down. Mr. Speaker, there's more to do. We're reforming planning and regulation, building the new homes that we need, supporting a third runway at Heathrow. That's what we're doing. The ONS say we've got the highest investment for 19 years. PwC, second best place to invest in the world. IMF upgrading growth, predicted fastest growing major economy in Europe. And as she admitted to the CBI in November, there's no point me just complaining about Labour, she said. It's obvious that we Conservatives lost the confidence of business. We're not taking lectures from them.
And who can blame them? This piece of legislation, ostensibly designed to protect workers and boost the economy, might just be the Trojan horse that brings British businesses to their knees. Let's take a closer look at the bill that's causing such a ruckus. On the surface, it sounds noble enough. Protecting workers, ensuring fair treatment, all that jazz. But dig a little deeper and you'll find a minefield of regulations that's making business owners think twice about hiring. Take, for example, a woman running a small business in Exeter. She's not some faceless corporation, mind you, but a local entrepreneur trying to make ends meet.
We can't accuse the Prime Minister of misleading the House. No. But he can't do it. I'm sure there's words that you would prefer to use.
Mr. Speaker, he doesn't want to talk about the employment bill because he doesn't know about it. Last week, he misled the House. He was not on top of his own education bill, listening to Mr. Speaker, last week he claimed to have laid down an amendment that he had not made. He doesn't know what is going on in here or out there.
And she's terrified of taking on new staff, particularly young people. Why? Because the employment bill's clauses make hiring new employees more challenging than ever. It's as if the government's handed her a rule book thicker than War and Peace, expecting her to navigate it without sinking her business. And she's not alone in her fears. The Federation of Small Businesses, you know, the folks who represent the backbone of our economy, reports that a whopping 92% of small employers are worried about this bill. That's not just a few disgruntled voices, it's a deafening chorus of concern. When 9 out of 10 small business owners are losing sleep over a piece of legislation, perhaps it's time for our esteemed politicians to sit up and take notice. But here's the real kicker, the cherry on top of this legislative sundae. The government's own figures estimate that this bill will cost businesses £5 billion a year. Let that sink in for a moment. £5 billion. That's not pocket change we're talking about. It's a significant burden on the very entities driving economic growth. It's like asking businesses to run a marathon while carrying an elephant on their backs. As tensions rise and debates heat up, businesses are asking the million-pound question. Will this bill create create jobs or destroy them? The answer, I'm afraid, might not be what the government wants to hear. Despite its lofty name, the employment bill might actually be an unemployment bill in disguise. It's a classic case of good intentions paving the road to economic hell. But hold your horses, folks, this debate is far from over. The government predictably has its own perspective on this contentious issue. They're not about to roll over and admit defeat. No sir, they've got their own arguments locked and loaded, ready to fire back at the naysayers. As the dust settles from the small business outcry, the government's defense of the employment bill takes center stage. But here's where things get interesting. The Prime Minister's claims are raising more eyebrows than a Ricky Gervais stand-up routine. Picture this. The PM stands at the dispatch box, chest puffed out like a proud peacock, declaring the UK has the highest investment for 19 years and is the second best place to invest in the world. Impressive, right? But hold on a minute. If that's true, why are businesses running for the hills faster than Keir Starmer dodging a tough question? The government's tune is all about proper dignity and protection at work. Noble intentions, sure, but as we've seen time and time again, the road to economic hell is paved with good intentions, and this particular road seems to be leading straight to a £5 billion annual pothole for businesses. But here's where it gets truly bizarre. As the debate heats up faster than a Westminster scandal, it becomes painfully clear that the Prime Minister seems about as familiar with the details of his own bill as Isabel Oakeshott is with subtlety. Is this a case of misunderstanding or deliberate misdirection? Either way, it's not a good look for the person steering the ship of state. The clash of ideologies is as stark as the contrast between Boris Johnson's hair and a well-groomed poodle. On one side, we have the government claiming this bill is the golden ticket to worker paradise and economic nirvana. On the other, we have businesses warning it's more like a one-way ticket to bankruptcy boulevard. But here's the million-pound question. Who really benefits from this bill? The workers, the businesses, or perhaps, just perhaps, it's the politicians who get to pat themselves on the back for doing something, while the rest of us are left to deal with the consequences. As the argument intensifies, it's becoming increasingly clear that the government's understanding of business realities is about as solid as a chocolate teapot. The Prime Minister's apparent ignorance of crucial details in his own legislation is more telling than a politician's expense report. As the dust settles on this fierce Commons clash, one thing is crystal clear. The UK's path to economic recovery is about as straightforward as a drunk octopus trying to put on a pair of boots. The employment bill debate has exposed a chasm deeper than the Mariana Trench between the government's rosy vision and the stark fears of businesses. On one side, we've got the government promising worker protection and growth like they're handing out free candy. On the other, businesses are cowering in fear as if the bill is some kind of economic boogeyman. It's a circus, and the ringmaster seems to be wearing a blindfold. But here's the kicker. This isn't just political theater. It's about the future of every shop owner, factory worker, and office drone in Britain. Will the employment bill be the golden ticket to worker paradise or the express train to bankruptcy boulevard? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure. We're in for one hell of a ride.